Taman Festival was designed to be the Disneyland of Indonesia, yet it was struck down by a series of bizarre and unfortunate events. For some, it was cursed, the result of building on the site of a former temple and cemetery.
The construction of Taman Festival displaced an old cemetery of the victims of the 1974 plane crash, where 107 passengers were buried.
The Ozarks are America's forgotten mountain range. It's a beautiful, idyllic area that most people are barely aware exists. In the middle of that, we come across this strange little outpost.
This place is gorgeous. You've got creeks and streams and forests and woodlands.
So it's hard to get a handle on what this place really was.
It could be some kind of ghost town, but amid the tranquil beauty, more ramshackle ruins hint at this site's true nature.
You've got broken scaffolds, metal frames, offices with paper strewn all about the place, buildings overgrown with weeds.
You can just tell how busy this place would have been. This place is vast. There is space for a lot of people here, and there's even a little train line.
The railroad track wends a course around this 400-acre complex.
There's definitely a certain amount of make-believe to this whole site.
Why is this place abandoned? Because outside of it, it looks like paradise.
This is Dogpatch, USA, an amusement park like no other in America before or since.
It's a theme park, so in one sense, it's like Disneyland. But there were a few major differences. Instead of mice, fantasy castles, and big rides, you had hillbillies, a few arcades, and a lake full of trout.
Its doors first opened to the public on May 18, 1968. Eddie Sisson helps to look after what's left of this once bustling amusement park.
In the heyday of the park, there would be just tons of people, kids going back and forth, and people eating, people buying tickets, people browsing at the Dogpatch memorabilia. There were just, maybe 800 people in this building at one time.
But why were people so keen to come visit these log cabins in the woods? The story of how it came to be dates back 3 decades before the first visitors came.
It's sort of a landmark to a massive cultural shift in America. This park was culturally related to one specific time period. It reflected an America in which people were moving from the agricultural and countrysides into the cities.
The park took inspiration from an unexpected source, a cartoon strip known as Lil Abner, which made fun of that change.
Today, it's hard to remember or to even imagine how influential newspaper comic strips were in the mid-20th century. Little Abner was one of the most popular comic strips, and its creator, Al Capp, was a huge celebrity. He used to go on The Tonight Show. He was friends with presidents.
Lil Abner was set in the fictional Appalachian village of Dogpatch. It was an over-the-top portrayal of rural folk living in Appalachia.
Of course, Al Capp's vision of life in the Appalachians was a very demeaning hillbilly stereotype, but it was also one that people kind of loved and embraced. So when they heard that there was a theme park based on Dogpatch, that was very appealing to a lot of people.
At its height, the cultural phenomenon attracted a readership of over 60 million people. Yet the fact the park existed at all was a remarkable achievement.
Now, Al Capp was a very difficult, cantankerous character. He had turned down many offers to commercialize different aspects of his comic and to build theme parks. But he liked this idea partly because it didn't seem that commercial.
It wasn't so much about the rides. It was more about the setting and the atmosphere it provided. This is a slightly different take on your average theme park.
For many visitors, this was a chance to be a part of a world they had grown up consuming. From catching a fish in the trout pond and having it cooked in the park's restaurant, to watching artisans producing traditional crafts in the cabins, guests were transported into Al Cap's imagination.
It looked just like the dog patch in the comic. There was a waterfall, some scruffy hills. There were even a few caves where you could imagine maybe someone was off brewing up some moonshine.
There was a waterfall, a trout farm, there was campgrounds.
One of the largest structures that remains here is the old tower, standing tall, with the long slide flowing down. We've all been to fairgrounds as a kid. You know, this is exactly what you want, fun and games.
In its first year, 300,000 people came to enjoy the hillbilly comic creation.
The local city council and the county all helped fund and create this park, and when it opened to great success. It made a lot of money. It was a very popular theme park.
Lil Abner, the brand, was going really well. There were plans to open a chain of themed restaurants, and there was a TV show in the pipeline too.
What may seem a strange premise for an amusement park today somehow worked. And in time, some of the biggest names in show business came to perform here. Why then did its popularity not last?
By the 70s, things were changing. There was the energy crisis. The price of gas went sky high. The economy was really struggling. Unemployment was high. Inflation was high. People weren't as inclined to take long road trips.
As profits plummeted, the park was put up for sale. The new proprietors believed they could turn its fortunes around, but the odds were stacked against them.
In the 80s, the park was sold and purchased by a company that specializes in building and branding theme parks.
The new owners really thought big. They put in bigger rides, they put in a music venue.
But as the 1980s wore on, no matter how hard they tried to attract new visitors, there was one overriding problem.
Al Cap retired from making the comic character Little Abner in 1977.
So within a few years, you don't have children growing up on Little Abner anymore. They're not clamoring to their parents to go to Dog Patch because they've never heard of Dog Patch. A brand like Disney spends millions of dollars a year reminding everybody about those iconic characters.
You know, originally Dog Patch was over 800 acres, which was larger than Disney World when it started. Disneyland has become huge, trumping everything.
Unable to adapt and keep pace with the changing times, the park fell into bankruptcy. And in 1993, its gates finally slammed shut.
It's sort of sad to walk this ground today because the basic idea wasn't a bad one. A lot of people love the idea of being in the heartland of America, being in a rustic setting, celebrating some of the traditions of rural life or country life.
Dog Patch may be gone forever, but the area's natural beauty could one day bring back the crowds. Recently, the derelict site has been bought by new owners with the hope of making use of its fish-filled lakes.
This feature is the key to all of it. If you can attract people here to fish, then that's the starting point. The idea can grow from there. Maybe there is life left in this place yet.
There's what looks like an old Western town. There's a main street in the middle, and on either side there are general stores, saloons, and even a jail.
America's full of deserted towns, and this place is high up in the mountains, so it could be the remains of an abandoned mining town. But somehow, this feels a bit different.
That's because this is a world of make-believe.
When you really look, it's very clear this is not old. None of this is real. It's just been made to look old.
The real giveaway is this massive structure that was obviously a roller coaster, and there are different amusement rides throughout the place, so this was a theme park. But what happened to it?
Inside, there are smashed up arcade machines, there's a stage for performers, and the costumes have all been left out, which suggests that people upped and left here in a hurry.
A theme park with no people is spooky and eerie, and some of the locals even say it's cursed, which begs the question, why did everyone leave? Why did it close?
Dave Angel lives in Maggie Valley. As a child, he loved nothing more than a day out at this much-treasured attraction.
This was a magical place to everybody that grew up here. I have vivid memories from 5, 6 years old all the way up till I was a teenager, coming up here to see friends that would perform and dance up here and family members.
When this theme park opened, it was the largest tourist attraction in the area. And it was all made possible by one man with a dream.
The original owner was Ronald Braxton Coburn, and he was inspired to build a Wild West theme park after visiting a number of abandoned ghost towns, real ghost towns, on a family vacation.
The idea of a Wild West theme park wasn't exactly new, but this one, perched on the side of a mountain at around 4,600 feet, was certainly unique.
Now that's almost a mile high, hence its nickname, the Mile High Fun Park, because that's exactly what it was.
Construction started in September of 1960, and it was an enormous task to say the least. To accommodate the Old West town, they had to literally shave about 50 feet of dirt and rock off the top of this mountain.
It took 200,000 plus feet of plywood to build this town, over 20,000 pounds of nails just to construct what was here. People believed in this vision, though.
Coburn called his creation Ghost Town in the Sky. When finished, it was the highest Wild West theme park in the world. Yet, for the guests that came here, the magical journey began at the foot of the mountain.
So this is the ticket booth. This is where your day at Ghost Town would get started. Big space here where people would start lining up early in the morning, wait in line to grab their tickets. At its heyday, thousands of people would come up to Ghost Town.
The only way to get up there was by a chairlift or a funicular train. I mean, what a great way to start the day. The higher you climbed, the more your anticipation grew.
At the summit, visitors were transported to another world.
There was a mining village where they could pan for gold. There was what they called an Indian village where they could learn more about indigenous life. But the most popular by far was the Old West town.
So this is the Silver Dollar Saloon. Back in the day, this room would have been filled with customers wanting to see a can-can show. There'll be a table over here with gunfighters playing cards. A gentleman would be playing piano with some kind of ragtime music. And the can-can dancers would come out on the stage and dance for everyone's entertainment.
But what the guests really came for were the daily staged gunfights.
They'd waited all day to see it. It would happen at high noon. And when it happened, the explosions from the gun, the bang, 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 it was just so loud. You could see the kids jumping. Somebody dropped their ice cream. Somebody grabbed their mom's leg. It was just a thrill to see live action gunfight right here in town.
The idea of the Old West is so important to Americans. It's just one of those ideas of strength and independence. And it all gets wrapped up in this mythology of the cowboy and his lassos and his hat.
Coburn also had some other tricks up his sleeve to tempt Wild West-loving visitors in.
One of the tools Coburn used was he brought in well-known actors of the day to be there signing signatures.
One of the most well-known celebrities to come up here was Burt Reynolds. In fact, the reason he left was when he got a part in the movie Deliverance.
Ghost Town in the Sky was a roaring success, and by the 1970s was regularly attracting over 500,000 visitors a year.
Things were going great. So great, in fact, Coburn sold the park in 1973.
After he sold the site, the number of visitors started to decline quickly. This park was Coburn's baby, and he didn't really like the direction where it was going.
And his son actually says that he'd wished he had never sold it. And so in 1986, Coburn buys it back.
One of the first things he did was to add more attractions, including this roller coaster that's quite spectacular and called the Red Devil.
It was amazing to come whirling down this roller coaster, making this loop and looking way over the valley, looking at the Blue Ridge Parkway over there.
Coburn's investment seemed to work, and people started coming back in huge numbers.
For the next few years, the park continued to be a success, but then suddenly, all of that changed.
Cowboys had just lost their appeal. Those old westerns were something your parents did and grandparents did, not what the young people of the 2000s wanted to be doing.
Visitor numbers continued to fall, and Coburn just didn't have the money to keep up the maintenance.
In 2002, the chairlift got stalled, stranding passengers for over 2 hours. This was kind of a last straw for Coburn.
After the incident when the chairlift broke down, he knew then it was time to put the park up for sale.
For the next 5 years, Ghost Town's gates remained closed. It was in desperate need of renovation, and the high maintenance costs made it a hard sell to prospective buyers.
In 2007, the park reopened under new ownership. They poured $38 million into it, creating new rides, attractions, shops, and restaurants.
Even with all that investment, even with wanting it to succeed, they were just papering over the cracks. All those old problems returned.
In 2009, the roller coaster ultimately failed some safety tests, and that was the point where it was decided it's just not worth the investment to continue to have the Red Devil cliffhanger as an attraction.
Things weren't getting better here. If anything, they were getting worse. And certain locals started to claim that the place was cursed.
In 2012, a new set of owners tried their luck, but quickly found they were fighting a losing battle.
Perhaps the most disturbing event happened in July of 2013 when one of the veteran gunslingers was actually staging a routine and was shot and wounded with what he said was an actual real bullet.
This understandably caused a lot of controversy. And obviously, it's something that should never have happened. Shortly after, the park was closed, and it's never reopened since.
In 2021, Dave Angel was part of a team that purchased the site.
Ghost Town is a magical place. It never felt like this park was ready to close.
The new owners are under no illusion about the size of the challenge ahead, but it's one they are ready for.
The ghost town that's here today probably won't be the ghost town of the future. We'll be building something that's a little newer, safer, but we'll still bring that feel and vibe that people love to see when they walk the streets of ghost town.
Nostalgia is a powerful commodity, so there is hope. Ghost town in the sky can come back from the dead.
In one direction, you can see thousands of dwellings, and in the other is this thick forest. It's really actually quite idyllic. As you look closer, though, everything starts to look a little creepy.
That's because hidden in the woods is a land of bizarre fantasy.
This place is really spooky. There's skeletons and dolls strewn around. It kind of looks like a horror movie set.
There's something that looks like a medieval castle, but the kind that you'd expect to see in a children's fairy tale book.
You can see tall steel constructions that look like they were going to be fairground rides.
They look like they're about to fall down at any moment.
But there's one ride that looks different from the rest. It's a typical fairground carousel, but it's absolutely spotless.
It's almost like you could flip the power switch there and then and go for a spin. There's something special about this ride.
Once a treasured attraction, then a victim of circumstance, this rundown amusement park has seen it all and lived to tell the tale.
From economic certain doom to the birth of global megastars, this place really embodies the zero to hero story.
아빠로서 또 가장으로서 이 인생을 살았을
As a father and as head of the household, I started this business with hope. But as I faced difficulties, my family had to go through them too. I've sold just about everything I've got in order to sustain this place.
Hyun Jun Soo has owned this site for over 40 years. He has never given up on his dream of making it a success.
결국은 아빠로서
I wasn't the best dad. I couldn't make my family happy like others. That's why I really want to complete this space. I'm trying to make a happy place where I can share that happiness with my family.
행복의 공간으로 만들려고 노력하고 있습니다.
When Jun-soo first opened this business in the early 1980s, it started out life as the Yongma Nature Park.
공원으로 허가를 받아
It was completed with a golf driving range, an outdoor swimming pool, amusement park, camping ground, and a tennis court.
캠핑장, 테니스장 등으로 구성하여
The opening didn't break any records, but the park had moderate success and gained a reputation as the kind of place you could bring your kids at the weekend and have a good time.
정문에서 표를 사자마자
The park is relatively small, but it was popular because of its comprehensive facilities. As soon as the guests bought their tickets at the front door, they ran straight to the rides.
But in 1989, after only 6 years of operation, a rival business muscled in on the act, offering visitors a supersized version of the Yongma experience.
To this day, Lottie World is still the biggest indoor amusement park in the world. So just imagine this opening up next door to you. I mean, it can't be good for business.
Jun-soo had nothing to fear. He had his own plans to give Yongma Nature Park a competitive edge.
그러다가
In 1996, we decided to transform the old swimming pool and amusement park, as well as the campground area, into something new.
They started building new rides and began construction on a new 5-story sports complex.
이 회전목마는
This carousel is from the United States.
만든다는 미국 제품입니다.
The pictures are all hand-painted.
수공으로 그린
The whole carousel is actually hand-painted, and that's why it was costly.
자체도 비쌌고 그다음에 이 색감 자체도
There were even rides that incorporated virtual reality. So, I mean, really, it was at the cutting edge for its time.
그 당시에 미국에서
Virtual reality games were very popular, and so I thought that the future era would be filled with digital content.
Junsu called his labor of love Yongma Land. Before the grand opening, the only thing left to do was finish construction of the sports complex.
But then the unthinkable happened.
In 1997, a major global financial crisis began that destabilized the economies of most East and Southeast Asian countries.
The value of South Korea's currency, the won, plummeted.
During the time of the international financial crisis in Korea, costs increased and the exchange rates rose. All these factors were very damaging. Unfortunately, the construction firm of the sports center went bankrupt, and so the building was never completed.
According to Junsu, in the eyes of the local government, this meant the entire site was still considered to be under construction. For this reason, they refused to grant him a permit to open the amusement park. No matter how hard he tried, he could not convince the authorities to change their mind.
In December 2007, the construction permit was revoked. My hopes for completion were gone, and all operations stopped. From then on, it began to be decommissioned.
But while the park fell into disrepair, the rest of the country was beginning to reap the rewards of a nationwide program designed to kickstart the ailing economy. A program that would have an unexpected impact on the fate of Yongma Land.
On the brink of bankruptcy, the South Korean government accepted a $58 billion bailout package.
They used part of this loan to fund cultural programs.
They were going to sell Korean culture to the world.
The strategy, dubbed the K-Wave, was an overwhelming success. Korean culture became global news and a huge moneymaker for the country.
This was pop culture, entertainment, music, TV dramas, and movies. During his state visit to South Korea, President Barack Obama even referenced K-Wave. So you could say it's a pretty big deal.
The jewel in the crown of this K-Wave was K-pop.
K-pop literally means Korean pop, and it's a global music sensation.
It draws musical influences from a huge range of genres, but it's almost equally as well known for its emphasis on aesthetics.
It wasn't long before some of K-pop's biggest stars were drawn to Yongma Land's derelict beauty.
Photographers came and took pictures of the area when it was neglected and posted them on their blogs. Then, around 2011, IU, a Korean pop star, came here to take her album photos. And then soon after, Baek Ji-young's music video was also shot here.
So Youngma's unique aesthetic and close proximity to Seoul made it the perfect location for a lot of these K-pop video shoots.
And the centerpiece of these music videos was always Yongma Land's carousel.
At first, it was a little depressing to see people using the rides as props or locations for photo shoots. But now I think it's that I'm most proud of. I really feel great when I watch others happy experiencing this place, and when I can become helpful to their happiness.
Today, Yongma Land's revival goes from strength to strength, with the location used to shoot music videos, television dramas, and even as a wedding venue. But Junsu still refuses to give up on his dream.
Since I'm now able to have a regular income, my life has become a little bit more stable.
사는 데 있어서 조금은 좀 안정적인 입장을 갖게 되죠. 새롭게 구성할 또 새롭게
I still keep my hopes up that Yongma Land will be completed in the future.
반복됩니다.
From the air over this site, you see the jungle reclaiming all kinds of buildings which don't appear to be in use anymore.
This place is really quite beautiful in its own way. There are lots of trees around, and you have this classical Eastern architecture.
You can see one large building with this arched roof. Only it's been burnt out. Only the shell survives.
This place is full of spiritual iconography. Statues of half-dragon, half-serpent figures, which suggest religious connotations.
These buildings are designed to intrigue, but this site isn't quite what it seems.
The whole place is covered from head to toe in street art. Now, if it was indeed spiritual, surely that wouldn't be there.
There's places where you feel like you're walking in a ruin of something ancient, but then you realize that's kind of a facade, that in fact everything is relatively recent. It was just built to look old.
The biggest part of that facade is this enormous lump of earth covered in trees and towering over the rest of the site. It looks like it's a hill, but it isn't. It's entirely artificial.
A lot of money was put into this place to make an impression on people. It's all very Jurassic Park.
So what was this place? And why did such extensive investment fail to pay off?
There are lots of legends about this place. Enough that people just don't go there anymore. And once you know the story about this site, you'd be right to tread very carefully.
This is the Taman Festival Park, and it was designed to be the Disneyland of Indonesia. But something happened here that made the plan go terribly wrong.
It was opened in 1997 and cost $100 million to build. Ajik Atu is a local resident and guardian of the site.
The owners wanted something extraordinary. They imagined all forms of entertainment would be available here.
This place had it all. It had a 3D cinema screen, pavilions, restaurants. They even advertised the world's first inverted roller coaster.
In addition to the rides and all the concessions, it was also meant to be kind of a celebration of nature with a lot of exotic plants, birds.
There used to be a crocodile enclosure in this area. There were approximately 150 crocodiles, both female and male here. But now, the enclosure has been taken over by weeds. It's still dangerous to hang out here because there might be starving crocodiles around. Some are still on the loose, so people don't come here anymore.
The main attraction, though, was the huge mound at the center of the park.
This used to be an artificial volcano. Every day there was a waterfall show, as well as a rainbow show and even a laser show.
Vegas has its water fountains, Disneyland's got its fireworks. Taman Festival had this amazing technology that could draw beautiful shapes across the sky.
They expected that people would be interested in visiting. But after it opened, the reality wasn't as expected.
Their timing couldn't have been worse. Just before they opened the park, the countries of Southeast Asia went through a spectacular financial crisis that really dragged a lot of them into deep, deep recession. If you remember the financial crisis of 2008 in the US and around the world, this was a preview of that, but it mostly only affected Asia.
Furthermore, Indonesia was going through major political upheaval.
The financial crisis also led to the downfall of President Suharto, who'd ruled the country with an iron fist for about 30 years. So when he left, That led to a lot of political turmoil and uncertainty. It wasn't a good climate for tourism.
The park was meant to get over 1,000 visitors a day, but often only one person turned up.
As if that wasn't enough, a huge storm rolled in, and the park suffered a dramatic stroke of bad luck.
In 1998, around March, there was an extraordinary tragedy. When the laser show was in full swing, there was a natural disaster. Lightning struck the volcano.
The $5 million worth of gadgetry that was designed to wow the people lay a smouldering mess of metal and glass.
That turned out to be a crushing blow. They just didn't have the money to repair their laser light show, and that was supposed to be kind of the central draw, the symbol of the whole park.
Later, other parts of the complex suffered a similar fate.
This used to be a grand and beautiful building with a traditional Balinese thatched roof. Very beautiful and attractive.
Yet this rusting frame is all that remains of the central restaurant after an unexplained fire. For some, this wasn't just bad luck.
Bali is predominantly a Hindu island, and the Balinese have their own interpretation, spiritually and philosophically, of why things went wrong at the park.
Taman Festival Bali was built on approximately 10 hectares of land, which used to be an area designated for a Pura Dalem, or Temple of the Dead, and managed by the people of Sanur.
The Temple of the Dead, one of 3 sacred temple types in Bali, is typically dedicated to Shiva. In the Hindu religion, god of destruction and destroyer of evil. But it wasn't only this temple that was built over. Was there something else behind this theme park's premature demise? For some, it was cursed, the result of building on the site of a former temple and cemetery.
The construction of Taman Festival displaced an old cemetery of the victims of the 1974 plane crash, where 107 passengers were buried.
For the locals, building on sacred land was a huge mistake and could explain why the park was struck down in such dramatic fashion.
Taman Festival, being built in the Pura Dalem, or Temple of the Dead area, was absolutely not something that the spirits here desired, especially if the development has an element of extravagance, alcohol sales, and so on. So it's very significant.
Abandoned in 2000, the park has since remained eerily silent, but it's believed the spirits live on.
There are lots of legends and cautionary stories about this place, so much so that people just don't visit anymore. The locals say that there are even man-eating crocodiles on the loose.
So the spirits who guard Taman Festival come in many different forms. Some are negative, some are positive. There are some who are still roaming around. We pay our respects by carrying out some small rituals, so they guard us.
With no plans to demolish the complex, the tropical forest is claiming it for its own. Yet the reasons behind its demise are still heavily debated.
When you see something built as recently as the 1990s that is today completely decaying and in disuse and disrepair, there has to have been some hubris involved, some massive miscalculation, some misreading of the market.
Whatever your personal beliefs about it, when you add up the financial crisis, the failed launch, the fire in the restaurant, and a catastrophic thunderstorm, it seems that the odds were just never in favor of this park.